We are going to talk about UI scroll view in Unity. So what is UI scroll view? UI scroll view is used to display content inside a scrollable frame. It is generally used when a large content needs to be fitted inside a small area in a scene. A scroll view has a scroll rect and an image component which is attached to it. So when you create a scroll view game object, by default a scroll rect and an image component will be attached to it. A scroll rect provides functionality to scroll over the content which takes up a lot of space and needs to be fitted inside a small area in a scene. Now there are some important elements in a scroll view. First is your viewport. Viewport is the child of the root game object which is scroll view. It is a rect transform that actually acts as a window to the scrollable content. Now mask component is attached to the viewport in order to hide any content outside of the viewport. Then second we have content. Content is the child of the viewport game object. The content component will have all the scrolling content inside it. So basically whatever content we are going to put in a scroll view will be inside your content game object or content component. The size of the content component needs to be expanded to fit all the scrollable content. Only if the content is larger than the viewport, then the scrolling effect will work. So suppose if content is smaller than the viewport, then the scrolling effect won't work at all. So it has to be larger than your viewport. Then we have scroll bars. There are two types of scroll bars here, horizontal and vertical scroll bars, which are the child of the root game object, which is your scroll view game object. Again, they are used to define horizontal and vertical scrolling for these scrollable elements. So horizontal scroll bar is used to define horizontal scrolling and vertical scroll bar is used to define vertical scrolling. How to make a dynamic scroll view? Now the scrollable content is added inside the content component. Okay, so whatever objects we are going to add, they all will be inside the content component. The size of the content component or the game object is larger than the body of the scroll view by default and can be modified as required. Now this perfectly suits for the static scrollable content if we exactly know how much content is going to be there inside the scroll view basically. But what if we don't know how much content is going to be there? What if the content is added at the runtime? Then what? Then the content component will not adjust its size accordingly and the content outside of the content area will not be visible. Hence the size of the scroll view can be changed dynamically by adding two elements to the content component. And which are these elements? These are your vertical layout group. What is vertical layout group? Vertical layout group is used to lay out child elements below each other. Okay, below one another. The scrollable content here will be placed vertically one below another. Then we have horizontal layout group. Horizontal layout group is used to lay out child elements side by side. The scrollable content here basically will be placed horizontally side by side. Okay, and then lastly we have content size fitter. What is content size fitter? The most important aspect here. Content size fitter will drive the size of the rect transform it's attached to. Okay, so this content size fitter basically will be added to your content component or game object. In fact, even the vertical layout group or horizontal layout group will be added or should be added to your content game object or content component. Content size fitter will drive the size of the rect transform it's attached to based on the layout of its children. It only works in the combination with a layout component such as your vertical layout group or horizontal layout group. Content size fitter can be set to have a horizontal fit of preferred size for horizontal layout group. So we can set the horizontal fit to preferred size for content size fitters. So this is a property for content size fitter which can be set to preferred size. This will basically increase the width on adding more child objects and which will fit them all. So that's it, guys. I will see you in the next session. In the next session, we'll be creating an example for a scroll view with a vertical layout group and a content size fitter. Thank you. Session, we are going to create a scroll view inside Unity with vertical layout group and content size fitter. So let's create a scroll view here. How do we do that? Just right click here on the UI scene, which is your name of the scene, and go to game object, go to UI and select scroll view here. And yes, our scroll view has been created here. Okay, we can just go to the scene mode here and adjust the width and height of the scroll view. Just click on rect tool here and just adjust the width. Inside the canvas, scroll view game object created here. Scroll view will have image component attached to it by default and a scroll rect attached to it by default. Horizontal and vertical here is in what direction it will scroll. Right now, both of them are checked. Then we have a moment type, which is kept to elastic. Elastic will basically move the content in all the directions. We don't want to do that. So let's change it to clamped. Okay, and then inside the scroll view we'll have a viewport here. So let's go to viewport here. So viewport basically again will have an image component attached to it with a rect transform and a mask attached to it. Now inside the viewport we'll have a content which will basically have all the scrollable content. Okay, so whatever the scrollable content we need to put here needs to go inside this content component or content game object here. So let's add vertical layout group to the content here. Okay, and let's add content size fitter here. Okay, so for the vertical layout group we have padding. Okay, padding is basically the space that will be left from left, right, top and bottom. Okay, so let's keep it to 5. We can adjust it later also. Okay, then spacing is basically the space between two different elements, child elements inside the content game object. So let's keep it to 5 here again. The scrollable area basically is not horizontal here, so we don't need to change this. Okay, we will have to change vertical fit here to preferred size, so that even if you keep on adding more child elements to it, content area basically will resize itself. All the elements will fit into it. Let's start adding images inside this content here. But we need to do some changes in the image here. We want it to be little stretched. Okay, so let's go to scene here. Select again rect tool here and adjust it according to the, just drag it. So let's right click on the image game object here, go to UI here again and click on text here. So we have added one image here to the scroll view. Let's add more images so that we can see the scrolling effect here. Okay, so let's just press Ctrl D and keep on adding the images, copying the images basically. For the scroll bar, horizontal and vertical, in this case, horizontal is going to be disabled because we have used vertical layout group here. Click on scroll bar vertical here and let's just change the width for this. Just make it 5. Okay, for horizontal, we need to change the height. So let's keep it to 0. Now let's run the scene and let's see how it looks. So here it is. We have a scrollable view here. As we discussed earlier, image component will be attached to the scroll view game object. Okay, and a source image is set to background here by default. So we can change the color for it. So let's change it to little darker color or maybe red color or something like that. Okay, depending, again it depends on what color you want, what color combinations you're using. Okay, So here is the scroll view using vertical layout group and a content size filter. So thank you so much guys. In the next session, we'll be talking about, or we'll be creating a scroll view using a horizontal layout. I want to see an example for Unity scroll view using horizontal layout group and content size filter. So basically the scroll view will scroll, the content inside the scroll view will scroll in a horizontal direction. So to create a scroll view, right click here on the UI scene, go to game object here, select UI here and click on scroll view. Also, let's adjust the height and width for the scroll view. There are two ways to do it. Either you can click here on the rect tool, go to scene mode and just drag this thing, or else you can directly set the width and height for the scroll views. Let's just change the width to 400 here since it's a horizontal scroll view, and let's keep the height to 150 here. Let's just extend the scroll view game object here. Okay, extend the viewport game object here and click on content here. Let's go to scene mode here and let's adjust the height of the content to match the height of the scroll view here using a rect transform tool. Again, for the scroll bars here, scroll bar horizontal. Okay, let's adjust the height to 5 here. Okay, and for the scroll bar vertical, let's keep the width to 0, because anyways the content is not going to scroll here vertically. So let's keep the width to 0 for the scroll bar vertical here. Again, go to scroll view here, click on the scroll view game object here and keep the moment type to clamped here and not elastic. Now let's add some images in the content. Okay, but before adding those images, let's add two components here. Okay, one is your horizontal layout group and other is your content size filter. So click on add component here and select horizontal layout group. Okay, padding left, right, top will adjust it later according to the size and the look of the image here. Okay, for the child alignment, we want the scrollable content exactly in the center of this scrollable view basically. So from upper left, change it to middle center here. Okay, and then add another component which is your content size filter. Okay, horizontal fit, we will change it to preferred size here. All right. After doing this, let's add image here. So to add an image in the content, right click on the content game object, go to UI and select image here. And our image is added here in the center. Okay, now let's do one thing. Let's set a sprite for this image. So I have already added few sprites here in the sprites folder here. So let's just drag and drop this user one sprite in the source image for the image basically that we just added. Okay, click on preserve aspect here. Just select the image and press Ctrl D to copy the image. Okay, let's just keep on adding the images. Okay, now click on image one and let's just change the source image for that. Just change it, drag and drop the source image here, the sprite basically. Just click on the content here, okay, and go on the horizontal layout group here and let's adjust the padding for this. Let's just keep it to 5, okay. For the right again, let's just keep it to 5. For the top, let's change it to 10 to bring it more in the center. Okay, bottom, let's keep it to 0. We don't want to change it. And for spacing, I think spacing looks fine here. Okay, and okay, that will be all. Let's run the scene and let's see how this thing looks here. So we have just created a scroll view using a horizontal layout group and a content size filter. Though this scroll view basically will scroll only in horizontal direction. Okay, so thank you guys. Thank you for the session. I will